I've played Zero Parades, a new game from the studio that released Disco Elysium, one of my favorite games, and to me it's a similarly outstanding experience as its predecessor. It's really hard to talk about this game or even play it without drawing comparisons to Disco Elysium, but at the same time I think all the bad rap around the corporate aspect of the studio is making people miss out on the amazing work the new team put into this game. Those are two games which are unique in terms of how politically intricate their worlds are, and being able to articulate a criticism of different political systems, including neoliberalism, and the creators of them both suffered in their own way from the same kinds of capitalist backhandedness that they fictionalized in the games. If you do know of other games which are as politically profound, let me know in the comments. If you're unfamiliar with Zaum's story, here's my attempt at a summary. It started off as an artistic collective in Estonia, one of whose members was Robert Kurwitz, who created the universe of Elysium for tabletop RPG sessions. Kurwitz wrote a novel in the universe and later became the lead writer and game director for Disco Elysium. Zaum became a company and investors became its majority owners. After the game came out, Kurwitz, alongside other leads, was fired from the company by the investors, and they lost the rights to the IP which they had been developing for years prior to the game's release. As such, the Elysium universe is still stuck in legal limbo, and what became of Zaum is largely hated by fans of Disco Elysium for effectively stealing the IP from people who created it and blocking a sequel from ever being created. Most of the original creators dispersed to work on other projects, but a handful stayed in Zaum, which developed a new disco-like Zero Parades. As such, when you see headlines saying a new RPG from the creators of Disco Elysium, it's not really accurate, as the majority of people working on Zero Parades weren't involved with disco. As you can imagine, for fans of Disco Elysium, this did not look great at all. As far as I know, most of the output of Zaum after ousting the leads was selling merch and making a mobile port of Disco that seems to dumb down the original. I was also skeptical of Zero Parades. I'm not too much into spy fiction, and with so much talent gone from the company, I had expected this to be a cash grab and a counterfeit disco-like. But then I decided to give it a shot when I saw some positive reviews. At the beginning, it was impossible for me not to automatically compare it to Disco Elysium, often not too favorably. The beginning is more confusing because you don't even know what your mission is for quite a while before it clears up. It's not clear where you came from, if you are an amnesiac again, or if the game just doesn't give you much concrete details to work with, and instead of Kim guiding you, there is some unconscious guy in a chair that's not much help. You used to be a sorry cop, now you're a sorry spy. The core mechanics are mostly the same, the universe is similar to Disco, a kind of hopeless battleground between the world powers. Your character's skills have their own voices, but they don't really get into some delirious arguments with each other as it was before. The portraits are not as expressive and symbolic, the music is maybe not as memorable on the whole, but it definitely does have its moments and is very well weaved into some action scenes. And the writing seemed a bit more verbose at times, and I found myself skimming over it more often than before. But in spite of all that, all of these elements on their own are still very well developed. It's just that it's all sort of in the shadow of the first game, especially with the mechanics and the setting being so similar to Elysium. I was wondering whether they should have strayed more from Disco's vibes to avoid these comparisons, but maybe it was something that the company ordered them to do to capitalize on the first game. Nonetheless, as I kept playing, it kept growing on me, and it felt more and more like its own thing. What I found to be the most impactful in the game was the character arcs of your former colleagues. The whole story revolves around you messing up an assignment with other spies years ago, and possibly being the only one to flee. As you play, you discover the fates of your colleagues, all pretty tragic in their own ways, and you get to work with some of them again on this new assignment. You are all basically broken people, traumatized by the debacle of the previous mission and what happened next. Torture, poverty, anxiety, illness, and a lack of closure on what happened. But you do get to come back and have an option to get your friends back together. Whether it's for professional or personal purposes, it's for you to decide. I've gone through the second half of the game quite quickly in a sort of task-oriented mode, assembled my team and went through the final assignment, and I was really surprised at how much the ending hit me emotionally. The game gives you many ways to go about the final assignment, and you're free to assemble your team from many possible members, so the choices for who you take on board and how you go about it carry that much more weight. A small spoiler alert here. I think the way that the game sort of conditioned me to believe this is a doomed mission, I had expected no positive outcomes in the end. So, when in my playthrough it was only a partial disaster, it rewarded trusting your colleagues in spite of their apparent weaknesses, and it gave you some glimmers of hope in the end. It really hit me. I got attached to these characters more than I had realized. To me, it may be a part of the meaning of the title. Those people are zeros, losers, but can shine if you give them a bit of help. Or you could get them killed in the process. It's your burden in the end. My playthrough was tragic but hopeful at the same time. I think this is where the game really shines for me. A sort of exploration of friendship, trust, overcoming of trauma, on your own and with others. It paints very intimate portraits of so many characters, builds up their masks, so to speak, to then let you peer in through cracks in their personas and see them more intimately. So yeah, to me, against the odds, it is an outstanding game. Again, and the public reaction to it is in some senses as sad as what happened with Disco Elysium. At least the original creators did not have people review bomb their game, call them scabs, and leave antagonistic comments under every piece of game promo by Zaum. Interestingly, it seems to have prompted GOG reps to make a Reddit thread asking users for advice on how to go about discrepancies in ratings between people who own the game and those who don't. People boycott this game and other Zaum products, and I don't know if it's big enough to genuinely impact how the game sells, but recently the company announced layoffs due to lower than expected sales. The idea that this is actually a great game seems to be pissing off some of the more sectarian fans of Disco Elysium, most of them not even having played it. I've seen a video where someone said the layoffs are a success for the gamers. A success in what way? Because at the end of the day, as usual, it's the workers, the creatives who made it happen, who suffered the most. And we're probably not getting sequels to either of these games anytime soon. Because of it all, it doesn't seem now that this game will reach anywhere near the levels of popularity of Disco Elysium, but I do hope that with time, more people will look past the drama and give it an honest try. The people who made it deserve that. And if you were into Disco Elysium, it's worth it.